Hey, Leah here.
Jonas.
And we embarked on a new journey this year to visit every NFL stadium in the US. And for those of you that don't know, there are 30 of them. And we just hit off our first one that is in our home stadium of Lumen Field. And where was our first destination?
Denver, Colorado.
Yes, we went to Empower Field at Mile High. And one of the reasons we started this kind of adventure is that we really wanted to see more of the US. We haven't done a lot of traveling within the US that hasn't been just to visit family. And we thought, or for work, yeah, we thought it would be fun to check off two things: our love of football and our desire to see more of the US and travel together, and put some of our hard earned credit card miles to work. And we're super dorky, me especially. So, what we wanted to do is after we go to each stadium, we want to kind of capture some of the highlights. And we have a rating system that we've created that we're going to use for every stadium that we visit and create kind of a master list ranking our favorite stadiums from start to finish. And maybe we'll be done in like 5 or 7 years, however long it takes us. We're not trying to do this in one season. So, all right.
So we have five different categories. We're going to rate each one individually and then reveal our scores, talk about it. So for each trip, each stadium, we wanted a category for architecture and design, just for the stadium itself, the impression it leaves us, but then also the location of the stadium in relation to the city and the surrounding area, kind of what our impressions are from that. A category for food
Yes.
is mandatory, both, I guess, in and out of the stadium or whatever comes to our mind from the trip. Category for the fan base and the energy, the impressions we have from that. I'm sure some stadiums and fans kind of come away much differently than others. Kind of wanted to track that. And then just overall production, like day of a game, event, how does it feel? What does the organization itself kind of put into it? And that kind of thing. So,
yeah. So we're going to rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, one being freaking awful and 10 being knocked it out of the park. And we're each going to do 1 to 10 for the five. So the total will end up being 100 for a perfect score. And yeah, ready to dive into it?
sure.
Okay, so our first category is going to be the architecture and design of the stadium. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how we progress with this, because right now our only frame of reference is Lumen Field, which is our home stadium, and we've been to dozens and dozens of times.
Seattle Seahawks, for those that don't know what Lumen Field is.
Yes. Seattle, we're an hour ferry ride, so we get to go quite a bit. So as we get more and more stadiums under our belt, it'll be interesting to see
Ready?
if our opinions change. But yes, okay, ready. 6.
Oh, snap.
So why did you give it a 6?
So it came across as kind of like an older stadium, but I did like that it was open air. Um, Walking around the stadium was easy enough, but it didn't offer many like views of the field if you were walking the concourse. There were not as many opportunities to like get out of your seat, stand and still watch the game kind of thing. But I don't know exactly when it was constructed. It just kind of felt a little old. Like I have a memory of like the upper deck top row of the upper level. There was like score box type thing, and it kind of looked like a high school stadium in that regard. Not the whole stadium, but the just that. Why did they have the little score box up there on the top row of the upper deck? Kind of was odd to me. But I did love the outdoor atmosphere and stadium overall. So I was kind of a little bit better than middle of the road. What about you?
Yeah, I liked the architecture, like how it has kind of like the wavy on the top, that it wasn't like a perfect, you know, flat surface, I guess, which was kind of cool. But I also feel like it didn't maximize the views of downtown Denver or the Rocky Mountains. And yeah, there was just I don't know, there just wasn't a wow factor for me. Yeah, it was easy to navigate. They had escalators inside, which is really nice. So you could,
Especially for getting to the nosebleed
yeah,
seats
we
at
were
the
up in
end.
the 500s, which is like the 300s at Lumen Field. And we went, it was the first weekend in October, and it was a really, really nice day. It was in the low 70s. And the problem is that our sea level skin did not do very well with like the altitude and the intensity of the sun at Mile High. And so the lack of shade was actually a problem
Yep.
for me. And I could also see in the winter, if you're dealing with inclement weather, you're also going to have the same problem where there's not a lot of protection for you from the elements. So
Part of the experience. If it was a snow game and just kind of embracing it, but yeah, baking in the sun and not
yeah,
having a reprieve and any kind of shade coverage,
yeah.
a little bit of the downside.
Yeah, there were a couple of cute little murals inside on the walls, which was kind of a nice homage to the Rhino District in downtown Denver. But there just wasn't anything that was like, oh my God, this is
You know what I
amazing.
did like is outside, I forget what direction it was, but one of the main entrances, I think they did a really good job of having memorials of some of the more famous players,
Mhm.
coaches, and staff members and things of like they had that tribute area,
Yeah.
little bronze pictures of their heads and stuff, but with the plaques and things. So walking up into the stadium, I did kind of like how they implemented aspects of that. We don't really have too much of that at Lumen as far as like
Yeah.
the history of the organization as you're getting close to the stadium. That
Yeah, more of
that
that's
I kind of like.
inside, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
And I do like, the Bronco statues coming up into the stadium was kind of iconic. And yeah,
All
kind
right.
of it. Any more
So
thoughts on that?
no, I'm surprised we
No.
had the same score.
Okay. So the next one is location and surrounding area. And
See what we got.
yeah, we'll see what we got. Hmm. Ready?
All right, you go first this
Okay.
time.
So location, it was, I don't know, maybe like a mile-ish from downtown. So definitely walkable. They also had like there's public transportation, there's light rail, a trolley, paths to get there. There's lots of different, it looked like parking. Obviously, we weren't
Couldn't
driving,
drive.
but there it looked like there was ample parking, lots of tailgating opportunities, which is something that Lumen Field is lacking. Um, but there wasn't like a ton right around if you wanted to go to like bars or restaurants or anything like that. It is very close to Meow Wolf though, which is fun, and we did do that afterward. There was some like nice parks and like green space around it. The view of the city was great in like one or two areas within the stadium you could see it. Like I said earlier, I don't think they capitalized on being able to get views of like the Rockies. Like could have been a little bit better, but overall it was decent. I was happy with how easy it was to get there.
Yeah. So went seven for this as well. I think its proximity to the city is great, but it a little bit out of the city center itself. But I did like how convenient it was to just walk from downtown along the path. I forget what river that was onto the stadium. It was a real
Mhm.
pleasant walk. They had something cute too, a little caboose trolley that you could fans can ride from one of the nearby parks along the riverfront to the stadium and stuff. Didn't do that, but just super convenient to get in and out of the city to the game. Right next to a freeway, it did appear like cars were able to get to and from stadium just fine. Not as familiar with the area surrounding the stadium, and we
Mhm.
didn't spend too much time exploring um, uh, the surrounding neighborhood. We just kind of walked to the stadium and went to the Meow Wolf after and back to the city center. But we didn't get the impression that there were many restaurant options and bars and things like that around the stadium. It was kind of like you had to get that closer to the city and then go to the game kind of
Or
thing.
tailgate.
But I did like the surrounding area of the stadium, that the city park and pathway there, but even just the parking lot. They had trees and different grass berm areas and things like that. It was kind of broken up. It wasn't just
Yeah.
one big mass asphalt parking lot surrounding a giant stadium. I kind of liked how it was broken up, and it did kind of seem in the different directions that you left from the stadium that there were good pedestrian access and things like that. So but stadium being that close to the city, but not like surrounded by skyscrapers and in concrete jungle, it did kind of have a little bit of an openness to it because it was a little bit on the outskirts of the city, but not too far away.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's nice. We've already looked at like where some of the locations are for other stadiums, and it's like, oh, it's kind of hard to get out there, or like, yeah. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that shakes out as we explore more. So, our third category is food, and I'm also going to include like just consumables, food and beverage in general. Yeah,
No cheating this time.
this time we haven't cheated at all.
All right, ready?
Ready? Okay, 5, 6. What got a 6 for you?
Um, Trying to reflect on what we did have, but Denver has quite a diverse population by nature. There's large like Hispanic influence. I think the stadium kind of embraced some of that. They had lots of different flair, but I like that they had the local kind of green chili infused type stuff. They had tacos and whatnot. We didn't really have all that different kind of food, but I did like that they had kind of this local touch on some of that embraced kind of the surrounding culture and people and population, things like that. I thought they did a good job with that. Um, I don't remember there being too many unique options that had a wow factor for me, and there didn't seem to be um, like the the locations of food that they had were very isolated. Where if you went in on the first level, main entrance, they had a couple of really good spots, and then uh, but that'd be the only other time you'd see it in the stadium. And we were up on the top deck, the 500s, kind of level three. But the chicken finger place and some of the other food vendors that we saw coming in
Get it.
could only get it on the
Yeah.
first level, and they didn't have other locations elsewhere in the stadium, which made it kind of inconvenient. If you saw something you really liked, you had to go all the way back down to find it. But as far as the food options in general, I felt like they had plenty. They
Mhm.
didn't really have anything that left me with kind of a super wow factor. But I did like that what they did have. They had some they embraced kind of the local things that uh, Denver's kind of known for.
Yeah, they did have a couple of green chili dishes, but like I think overall there wasn't a lot of variety outside of just standard stadium fare. Like there was all the burgers, the chicken tenders, the fries, the hot dogs, the popcorn and pretzels and nachos and pizza, right? But one of the things I like about Lumen Field is that you have other like there's a poke place and there's a dumpling place and there's like all of these kind of more like non-state traditional stadium foods that you can get there. And there wasn't really a whole lot of that. Like I don't think I saw there was maybe one place that had like a salad. There was one place that had mac and cheese. There was um
Yeah,
one place that had like a sandwich thing, like a panini type of thing. They're just
I don't know if there was anything there that we won't find in other stadiums that would resonate as, oh, that's Denver food.
yeah, the one thing that was kind of unique was they did have a signature drink called Orange
Oh,
Thunder that I did have, and it was delicious. It was very dangerous because it was really just sweet and on a hot day. It was like very refreshing and it was good.
we'll throw back to the Orange Crush defense of the Denver Broncos from the
Yeah.
80s, 90s.
Yeah. Oh, that was something that we forgot to say. I forgot to say about the stadium. Under the architecture, the all of the floors for where the seats are, I don't know if that's the right word, is like steel. So when you like, you know, stomp your feet on it, it actually gets kind of like loud and that's kind of cool instead of it just being like a bunch of concrete like it is at Lumen Field. So that gives a little bit of vibrancy there. But yeah, food, eh, absolutely nothing to write home about. Um,
Different story for the city. I felt like the city and the different
the
neighborhoods we
city
were
with
in,
the
really
best
good food
the
options.
best thing we had at the stadium was actually before the game. They have Main Street, Mane, like a Broncos Main, right? With like some games and food trucks and stuff. And we did get tacos at one of the food trucks in front of the stadium, and I thought they were
Yeah,
really good,
I would agree.
but it wasn't in the stadium proper.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's food. Nothing to write home about, nothing very exciting,
So
which is
then,
disappointing for me as a foodie.
so next category is fan base and energy and kind of our impressions with that.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
We'll hire for me.
I think part of why it's not as high for me is the game that we went to with the Broncos was against the Raiders, which is a big rivalry game. And I did not like how much like negative banter there was. And there were literally fist fights that we saw. And I know some people probably are like, yeah, that's like awesome. That brings the energy up. But for me, I think it's kind of like scary and I can't believe people will like resort to fighting, like have the banter. It was cool when we were leaving the stadium that they were chanting um uh Raiders suck. That's harmless. Like have all the fun with that you want. They also had the Broncos fans agreeing with the Raiders fans that Chiefs suck in general. They could agree on that one thing. But other than that, I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't generally see fist fights at games. Some of that could have been alcohol induced or whatever, and they have a storied history of being arch rivals in their division. So, um, but I will say for me, like uh, the energy though, it was in everyone seemed really into the game. And in our local section, the Raiders Broncos banter, it kind of came across as like friendly, sarcastic, and they all back and forth, not too much shouting and whatnot. Saw some fist fights in adjacent sections, people being escorted out, but that didn't really detract from the overall impression I had of the stadium and fan base in general, that they were very much into their team. It certainly helped that the Broncos were putting up scores and kind of running away from it. They generally don't do that every game, and so I think some of the big plays we saw and whatnot. But um, I think fan base and energy for me was also before the game started. That area outside the main entrance, food trucks and things. People showed up early. They watched players get off buses. There was in the parking lot where people were tailgating. You saw uh, family friends hanging out, kids playing football in the parking lot. The fan base, the energy for the game and their team, I think, was a little bit stronger than we typically see at Lumen. Not with regard to like how loud Lumen can get during the game, but it did seem like Broncos fans were kind of like, I don't know, more uh, I don't know. It's kind of hard. They were more engaged with their team before and after the game. Because even walking down the ramps and them chanting in support of the team as they're exiting for their cars and chanting against the Raiders and things.
We have some of that.
We have some of that. We have the Hawks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do that. But it seemed like they were a little bit more into it.
Yeah, and I like some of the things that we do for like first downs and that kind of stuff at Lumen Field, and they didn't really do that the same level at the Broncos game. They did like the interception thing, which you don't get as many, so it wasn't like
Yeah,
there wasn't a cohesiveness, I guess, with like the cheering, I felt like.
that's true.
But I will, oh, never mind. I'm gonna say that for the next section.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on, I will say it would probably be a 7, but they lost a point for the fighting, which could have just been bad luck. Oh, and the girl that was behind us was really annoying. Like
Her cheering was more like screaming, so
really high pitched
but
squeals. Yeah.
she had lots of energy.
Oh, that's for sure. And the guy we sat next to had been a season ticket holder for 55 years.
Super impressive. And when they built the new stadium, not so new anymore, he specifically asked for the same seat, same location, as close to the same view as he and his wife had at the previous Mile High Stadium.
Yeah.
That was kind of a real personal touch. That it was neat being sitting next to fans that season tickets for so long that
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and he did give me like a little heads up of like, oh, go you look up there, like before. I don't know what they call their Bronco mascot guy, but when he was up on the roof of this stadium with the flag,
Top of the scoreboard.
yeah, so they're like, oh, look up there, he's gonna be up there in just a second, so that was kind of fun just to get,
Little inside
yeah,
tips.
little heads up. So he was very aware of the traditions.
So final category is just overall production
Production. Yeah.
of just like the game day event and what the
Mhm.
organization does. So
Okay.
mm,
Um, Production wise, I liked the Main Street setup before the game. Um, I think that's kind of like included in the production. They had a couple of really funny things that they did on the Jumbotron with like engaging the fans. This Hey Siri one
that
was
one was
really
pretty neat.
funny. And then there was also one where they said the Raiders have requested silence. Please show their request the
Please respect their
please show their request the respect it deserves. And then like the whole
yeah,
stadium like erupts, right? So that was like funny.
the sarcastic spin on it. Yeah.
Yeah, they had like the traditional like, um games of like which ours is boat races. I can't even remember what theirs was, but like there's some stuff that engaged. One of the things that we didn't love was like the music wasn't very varied. When we were in there, it was just like a lot of like rap and hip hop.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that, but like, it
Mix it up a
missed some
bit.
of the classics and like we like to get like some little EDM stuff and some pop and so it was a little bit
Not as
blah.
diversified as we see it
Yeah.
for here, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I did like when they scored a touchdown, the having the horse run out. So that was kind of fun. And they did score quite a few touchdowns while we were there. So we got to see the horse like
Yeah,
4 or 5
the
times.
cheerleaders come out from the sidelines and kind of create an alleyway, and then and I'm sure the horse
Yeah.
and the woman that rides it has names and they're famous in their own right, but run and gallop down that line, and
Yeah.
it is pretty neat. You don't see a horse galloping through the center of a football field at any other many other stadiums, or we'll find out. But that was pretty. I liked that celebration.
Yeah.
And there were I forget how many touchdowns they had, but they had quite a bit that day. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was interesting.
Mm. Anything else on the production front?
Yeah, I went a little bit lower than you, 6. It was interesting, like leaving the game, they had a band, drummers and things
Oh,
out when people are leaving the stadium that kind of added to the overall atmosphere. And it's like, well, where have they
yeah.
been all game? They didn't seem to have a presence in the stadium, or they weren't really emphasized. If they were there, I didn't even notice.
Mhm.
It was a nice touch outside the stadium that they had that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Whereas in Lumen, they have the drummers like in the stadium. They have a section.
Yeah. They
They
feature them quite a
they feature
bit.
them quite a bit, things like that.
They also feature like DJ Super Sam, and like there's like a little bit more you get behind the scenes of the production, I guess, or I
Yeah.
don't know. Mm.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I felt like it was a fun game day atmosphere.
Mm.
Leading before the game, the surrounding area, and leading in, they had lots of events and things that you can do to
Mm.
like embrace the NFL
They were
atmosphere.
giving away belt buckles. Like,
Yeah, super Rocky Mountain Cowboy
yeah.
type cowgirl type
Yeah.
thing.
We got in early enough to get one, but we're like,
We're not going to use belt
we don't
buckle,
need a belt
buckles.
buckle.
Yeah, so that's some of the other kiddos do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a fun, memorable experience. Going back to Denver to see a game was great for me because that was my first NFL game. I think I was maybe about 12. I went with my dad. John Elway and the Denver Broncos went up against Joe
Mhm.
Montana when he was on the Chiefs, and it snowed. And so I don't really remember some of the details for these different categories of
Mhm.
that experience, but it brought back lots of fond memories for me. They were the team of my youth, and it wasn't the same kind of mile high experience, but I think Empower Field had a little touches of kind of an homage to that, and um, fan base energy, great. The production though, just like for the organization, kind of better than average. I went with a
Mhm.
6,
Yeah.
but didn't really like leave me with a super wow factor
Yeah.
again. That'd be like super unique
Yeah.
and memorable.
I
Like,
think that's like our just kind of general consensus of Empower feels like it was solid. Like there wasn't
yes,
anything wrong. Like I think the only thing that I was really kind of disappointed in, obviously, like the food and that there wasn't a place to watch the game or see the field without being in your seats.
and there isn't too much of that at the moment. I mean, I'm
No.
not. They want you in your seat to watch the game, but there are areas of for Seattle games where if you want to stand, kind of roam around a little bit, they have, I don't know what you call them, like just
Just
vantage points, kind
yeah.
of patio areas type thing where you can still experience the game and not be in your seat the whole
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
Um, and
It's really just on one end zone,
yeah,
but it's nice to have that as an option.
but
So
in Powerfield, they do have a couple of like patio areas, kind of midfield looking where you can see the
yeah.
city, but just with one tiny TV hanging
Mhm.
on a wall, kind of blocked by pillars and other people. So if you leave your seat, you're pretty much going to be missing the action on the field
Mhm.
more so than we are typically used to.
If I'm like just missing this now, but thinking about it, like I didn't hear the announcers when you were out like in the concourse. And I feel like at Lumen Field you do. Like you can really kind of get a sense of what's happening in the
Something important
game.
is happening. Yeah.
But when we were in the concourse, you like couldn't tell at all what was happening in the game. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But overall, great experience, a
Mhm.
wonderful way to kick off this NFL challenge type thing.
What do we have next?
We are going to Baltimore, taking the train, and also going to DC. So
Yeah.
it'll be one trip, it'll be next month. We're going to be at a
Thursday
Saints
night
Thursday night game in
in
Baltimore.
Baltimore. Yeah.
Um, who do they play?
I can't remember the schedule. I want to say the Bengals, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think the Commanders in DC are playing the Steelers, if I'm not mistaken. But it'll be kind of neat being back in DC. I traveled there a lot for work over the years, for extended periods and trips on an ad hoc basis and
And we've
whatnot.
never been to
So,
Baltimore, right?
and
Neither of us.
yeah,
Okay.
so
Yeah. So Baltimore will be new.
yeah,
So if you have recommendations, send them our way. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.